Hello. So today I am reviewing The Crocodile Hunter by Steve and Terry Irwin. There you can see Steve with a crocodile. I loved this book. This book I was able to find easily. There's other books about Steve Irwin, such as the one that is written by his father, and then another one that's written by his friend, that I haven't been able to find yet. They're not in distribution anymore, and none of the secondhand bookstores that I shop at sell them at the moment. My hair looks crazy. Okay, but this book was great. I loved it. So some of the chapters are written by Steve, and some of the chapters are written by Terry, and then the epilogue is written by Wes Mannion, which, if you watch their shows, you'll know who Wes is. Wes is Steve's best friend, and I actually really enjoyed reading the epilogue, and you get to hear about the first time that Wes ever went to the zoo and met first Steve's mom and then Steve and his dad. And it was interesting to see the zoo and these big forces within the zoo through a child's lens. And then he obviously went on to work at the zoo, and I really liked his descriptions. If he ever wrote a book, I would love to read it. And I think that he lives in Arizona now. I'm not sure. So anyways, things I loved about this book. I did love the Terry chapters, but I've read a lot of Terry's work before and listened to a lot of interviews with her. So something I was really excited about with this book in particular is that parts of it are actually written by Steve, and this is the only book that he ever wrote. I loved it so much. You can hear his voice in your head when you're reading, and some things that I really enjoyed was stories that he shared about his childhood. How much he loved his parents is so evident in the book. How much he admired his dad, loved his mom. He can't even talk at all about his mother without just saying how much he loved her, misses her, like how much she shaped him. And this book was written after she passed away. And it's Bindi is a little kid, but Robert hasn't been born yet, just if you're wondering what the timeline of this book is. Some stories that I really loved from his childhood was one time when he was out in the bush with his dad, and they were looking for snakes, and he was a little kid. I think he said he was maybe like 8 years old, something like that, and he was wearing these plastic sandals, and he was running around with a stick pretending that he was in the army, and he was like going up on this hill with his like little stick, and he found a brown snake. I think he said it was 6 foot long, and so he's like, "Dad, Dad, Dad," and the snake was about to go away, so he pinned the snake with his foot. And this is a highly venomous snake. I think it's the second most venomous snake in the world, or at least in Australia. And his dad is like, "Where are you?" Because he's saying, "Dad, I found a snake, found a snake." His dad's like, "Where are you? Where are you?" Finally finds him, and he was so excited because he's like, "Man, my dad's gonna be so proud of me that I found this snake." And then his dad sees him and says, "You bloody idiot," and smacks him like this, like pushes him, I think, with his forearm, and Steve goes flying, and he hits the other side of this like dune that they were in. He hurt his arm, I believe, and he was just so sad, like sad and embarrassed, because he thought his dad was gonna be so proud of him. And when he said and then he decided that he was going to run away because that would teach his dad. And he goes to find a cave to live in and ends up finding a whole bunch of skinks in the cave and gets really excited about that until it's time to go. But he said what he didn't realize until he was a teenager was that you should never pin a snake in the middle, and especially with a venomous snake. The way he had pinned it in the middle, he was still within strike range of it very easily, and the snake was up about to strike at him, and he was wearing flip-flops. So that could have cost him his life. But I thought that the story was cute in terms of just seeing the enthusiasm that he had from a young age, and also that his dad showed him, but also like taught him to take wildlife seriously and things like that. Another story he talked about was him getting in trouble because he was bored at school. There was like a game, was it cricket? I think it was cricket. And so, I don't know, I'm not Australian, I don't know these games, but he got bored and he ended up going over to a little creek nearby and found another venomous snake, a red-bellied black snake, is that what it's called? I don't know. It's like been a little while since I was reading the beginning. I just finished the book, so I'm not recalling. I should have reread my highlights at least. But anyways, so he caught this venomous snake and called out to his friend, who went and got the bus driver's lunchbox for them to put it in, and then he went and caught a bunch other, I think 6 of these snakes, and he was so excited because he's like, again, my dad's gonna be so proud of me, because they had just started the reptile and fauna park, and so he's like, they're gonna be so excited to get these snakes in the park. And they put all these snakes in the bus driver's lunchbox, and the bus driver found out about it and was very, very mad. And whenever he took them home, oh my goodness, there's some chickens over here, and they just started having sex while I was talking. They're done now. It was very quick. Okay. Once again, his dad was very upset and explained to him, gave him a swift kick in the bum, he says, and then told him how, it's not okay to put people in danger like that. He also shared some very sad stories from later on in his life. He was talking about one time when he was scuba diving and he saw a shark that seemed like it was in distress. And so he went down lower to see what was going on, and he found multiple sharks that all had their fins cut off and then been thrown back in the ocean. And so they couldn't swim, and they were just on the ocean floor dying. It's very, very sad. And, he talked about the fact that he couldn't believe how cruel some people can be, and how a lot of animals, so there's certain countries where they eat shark fin soup, which is why they're just taking the fins and then throwing the shark back in. But he also talked about a lot of animals that are deemed as dangerous, and how usually you won't even interact with them at all unless you enter their territory, such as sharks or crocodiles. And he said that one of the top factors in crocodile attacks is actually alcohol. And he said crocodiles don't drink alcohol, but sometimes when people get drunk around a crocodile, they feel like like nothing bad's gonna happen to them. They go in the water and they end up getting attacked. He said that in Australia there's only one fatality a year usually that involves a crocodile. Human fatality. There's lots of stories that are interesting to read in the book. I really enjoyed it. There's also a lot of pictures. Let me see if I can find one. If you have been watching Robert Irwin on Dancing with the Stars, or he's been talking, it's starting to rain. There's like a YouTube video, I guess, that I saw, but he was talking about during Dancing with the Stars that he had found this shirt of his dad's that he was wearing. There's a ton of pictures of Steve wearing this shirt. This is the shirt that Robert had been wearing. There's a ton of pictures of Steve wearing the shirt in this book. And their life is just so adventurous. It's really cool to read about. And I think that you should read it too. Get your hands on this book somehow and read about it. Look, here's some baby snakes. Little baby snakes, which if you've ever seen baby snakes, they're so cute. I saw some at the zoo one day. They also did talk about their zoo specifically and how they do things a little bit differently. Terry talks about this, how nowadays zoos have to take on more responsibility. Let me find that place. She says, yeah, today's zoos must evolve to take on much more responsibility in regard to regional and global conservation. I'm proud to say that Australia Zoo continues to be leading the way with strategies that incorporate people as well as animals and their habitats. We firmly believe that if people are struggling for survival, wildlife issues are at the bottom of the list, but if we can make an effort to help ensure that everyone has healthy children with full tummies, we can more successfully achieve our conservation goals. She talks about their wandering wildlife program, where she says, we're taking many animals out of their enclosures to interact with people. You could encounter almost anything, like a koala, a tortoise, lizard, cockatoo. She goes on and on, but I went to their zoo, and that was something I loved about it, was that it didn't feel so enclosed, but also that they were trying to give the animals as much room as they could. Also, look at this. It's green here and it's blue on the side. So this book sat on a shelf for a long time and was exposed to the sun for it to dye the green blue. And I think that it needs to be read, and it needs to be read more often. I loved it. What else? Oh, should I end with a quote from Steve? He said, "We don't own the planet Earth, we belong to it." Some things he mentioned that we can do on a daily basis to do our part is recycle, conserve water, and have chemical and pollution awareness.